What terrifying secret are you hiding from your family? Story 1. Not my family. A friend's. When I was 13, my best friend and I were at his sister's condo. We were babysitting his 5-year-old niece. We went to the complex pool and did normal kid stuff. She had her water wings on, and we were messing around, jumping in, flipping, doing the usual grab buns pool games. At some point, she had slipped out of her water wings. I looked over and saw an image that will stay with me until I die. 2 yellow water wings floating on the surface, and the girl 2 to 3 feet down, completely motionless. Her arms and legs were hanging loosely, and her blonde hair was spread out like a halo in the water. My friend just screamed and froze. I jumped into the pool to swim to her, but I don't even remember deciding to do it. I was just moving. I came up under her and pushed her up. I had no thought, no plan, no clue, just acted. The force of my hand on her stomach pushed water out of her lungs. Then I got her to the side, and my friend pulled her out. She coughed and started crying. My friend was afraid he'd get in trouble, so we never spoke of it. The girl was too young to say or even recall what happened. Now she's in her early 40s with 2 kids. Nobody knows it happened. And yeah, for anyone doing the math, I'm an old dude. Before we continue, do us a quick favor, smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. No one in my family besides my mom knows this, but when I was 19, I got pregnant. I was scared. I had a crappy seasonal job and lived in a garage. I was scared, but I was happy about it. Unfortunately, nobody else was. When I told my boyfriend, he freaked out and yelled at me. He told me I had to get an abortion or we would be kicked out. He lied about that. I told my mom, thinking she would be supportive, but she wasn't. She told me to have an abortion immediately because I wouldn't be a good mother given my situation. I told her I didn't want to, and she said if I didn't have the abortion, she would never speak to me again. We are really close, so this scared me. Despite my protests, they both told me I had no other option. I didn't want to go through with it, but I did. 3 years later, here I am, drinking every night. I spend almost all of my free time either drunk or passed out from drinking. Many mornings I wake up with little memory of anything from the previous night. I have no social life anymore, and I feel very depressed. My family has no idea how bad my drinking is. None of them know about the abortion or how it was dealt with. I feel guilty and trapped. I want to get over it, but drinking is the only way I know how to do that. Thank you to anyone who read the whole thing. It feels so good not to keep this inside right now. Story 3. The wrong brother died 2 years ago. My younger brother was sweet, caring, and patient. My older brother is a sociopath who used to beat me simply for the pleasure of exerting power over someone. He's wrecked his body through an addiction to prescription painkillers, but my parents will never see it. Our father once walked in on him, stomping on me with military boots he got just for that purpose, and asked why I had provoked him. I was 6, and my brother was a teenager. Story 4. When I was 14, my friend and I were drinking at my house while my parents were away. I lived in a small town with not much to do. Not that I'm defending teenagers drinking, just giving context. My sister, who is 4 years older, had a 1987 Honda Civic in the garage. My friend and I thought it would be a good idea to stealthily open the garage door, push the car down the road, hop in, start it, and go for a little joyride on the country roads. It was a rainy day, so the roads were slick. I had the brilliant idea to pull the e-brake and do a little slide. I ended up sliding right into a ditch. The front bumper mounts broke, and the hubcap was slightly bent into the tire. We took it back home and drunkenly tried to fix it with zip ties and crowbars. It was a shoddy job, but it held. About a week later, my sister got into a low-speed accident on that exact side of the bumper. She still doesn't know what really happened, but I bet the mechanic working on her car suspected something. This was 13 years ago. Story 5. I'm no longer Catholic, nor do I believe in any supreme being or godlike deity. After being indoctrinated into the church as a baby and never questioning it, my whole life going to Mass every Sunday, even when I moved out on my own, I saw a friend join a religious cult. I watched as he was told he had to give them access to his bank account and that he could only date within the cult. I shook my head in disbelief at his stupidity until I realized the same could almost be said about me. Being a good little Catholic, I was giving a whole lot of my hard-earned money to the church, even amid all the banging scandals and abuse charges erupting throughout the world. I was expected by my parents to marry a good Catholic woman. Well, once I started questioning the little aspects of my faith, the whole thing just crumbled. Nothing made sense. Now I've had more money to spend on myself, more free time to do whatever I want on Sunday mornings, mostly sleeping in, and I got to marry a fantastic heathen atheist whom I never would have met before leaving the church. But my parents can never know that I don't believe anymore, or they would straight up disown me. Story 6. I know my Uncle Joe is an ex-offender. Joe is a close family friend. He's been around my whole life. Few years ago, I walked in on my uncle during a Christmas party banging with a girl I will call Carmen, who was a couple of years older than me. I presume they were banging because the noises were right, and Carmen had a rep for being wild and preferring older men. Joe was married. I just thought he was being a dong. In the 1980s, there were a bunch of unreported SA in our town. It was an open secret. One night, when I was about 8, I accidentally overheard a very drunk Joe confessing to being the guy who did it. My father dismissed him, telling him he was a liar. I went away for a couple of months and came back. Someone told me Carmen was accusing Joe of SA. She was drugged, and by the time she realized there had been an SA, there wasn't any physical evidence left. Joe denied doing it. She had gone to the cops. Nothing had been done, but the rumors got out. So I went to the police and gave a statement about that night and what I heard. Joe was questioned, but it didn't go anywhere. My father wouldn't forgive me if he knew. Story 7. Right. So my boyfriend is a pretty good cook, and over the years there isn't really anything I've been able to cook better than him. I try. Last spring, he decided he really wanted to make all kinds of cakes. They were all gorgeous, except the red velvet one, which he just couldn't seem to master. It was too soft and sank a bit. I wanted to give it a try too, so I bought all the ingredients and found a new recipe. But my cake turned out just as bad. I was pretty annoyed. I couldn't make it properly since before I met him, I was perfect at making cakes. So I kinda went out and bought a pre-made Betty Crocker red velvet cake mix and made the most delicious cake ever from it, and may have lied and said I made it from scratch. To this day, I haven't told him. Every time I say I'm going to make it, I time it so he's out at work and take the Betty Crocker packaging to a bin far away from the house so he won't get suspicious. I'm so ashamed, but the feeling of triumphant cake making couldn't be any better. The worst part was when his son asked me for the recipe a few weeks ago so he could try it in his cooking class at school. I had to make something up about how it was a secret recipe and the only thing I could cook better than his dad. In reality, it's all just a damn packet mix. Shame. Shame. Story 8. I was 8 and my mom is crazy enough to want me to reconnect with the guy if she found out. She always liked the people who tried controlling me, and when she thought an adult was S-aiming me, her reaction was to scream at me about how stupid I was ending up in that position. Nothing happened, but she thought something was going on. Then I got grounded. Edit. And because of bureaucracy, I have to visit the area, scared that crazy mom will tell him where to find me anyway. And no, it doesn't work in the go to police. He gets put in jail way. It's what he says, she says. Story 9. I'm not sure if this is the right thing, but here I go. I found out I have herpes simplex virus 2 in April. Before you start judging, I was with the person off and on for 5 years, and I get checked every 3 to 6 months. He has not been checked in 2 years. I told the person who gave it to me a month after having it. I'm still not 110% okay with what he did to me. I'm scared to tell my family because I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared to date. I'm scared to find love. I'm scared to be out there. I'm just scared. I don't know. Maybe this site wasn't the best, but I'm so lost and confused. Doctors don't know of any support groups. I don't know anyone else who has this besides myself. The ones who know can never understand how it feels when you have an outbreak. I feel so alone at times. I just want to run away and be normal again. But I will never be normal. I regret everything. I just wish I was smarter about who I let myself open up to. Do you have any tips on what I should do? I've been super depressed since I found out, not thinking about offing myself, but I feel like it'd be better off dead. Story 10. I am in an abusive relationship, though no one knows. My mom hates my fiancé, but she doesn't truly know how he is. She just thinks he isn't good enough for me. What she doesn't realize is that in the years I've been with him, while he hasn't hit me yet, he has shoved me aside when I've tried to calm him down, and he screams and yells at me during fights. I would think that when people see my pictures on social media, they believe I'm the happiest and luckiest girl in the world, because I was recently engaged to a man who is attractive, charismatic, and appears to have money. I seem to have everything anyone could want: a fast car, credit cards, nice clothing. Our engagement photos were taken in one of the largest cities in my country, where the famous, affluent, and wealthy tend to flock, in front of an iconic city landmark everyone knows. It was a surprise engagement. He is very jealous and insecure. He threatens to off himself if I leave. He has grabbed me and thrown me onto the bed and the hard flooring downstairs. He is upset that I'm going to college. He keeps saying I'm going to cheat on him, that men will flirt with me and want to sleep with me. That may be true, but I am not unfaithful. He often tells me in our weekly arguments that I should leave him if it's so bad and that I deserve someone better. But he also says if I leave, someone else will abuse and hit me. Last night, after we went out to the city, we got into an argument over my tone of voice. I offended him because I sounded mad, but I apologized profusely and assured him I wasn't. This escalated into him driving erratically down the motorway. When we got back to the house, he grabbed me by arms and held me against the wall twice. I am scared of him. And all day I've been in the house while he's at work. I feel miserable. I've gotten sick a few times. I hate myself because I feel powerless that I can't leave him because I love him. He owns my computer, car, phone, clothes, nearly everything. A lot of the time I feel like offing myself to escape because I also feel like my family hates me for choosing him over them. My mother has hit me, and so has my eldest brother. My youngest brother doesn't care enough to get involved. I am so ashamed of myself, and I know I can get over hurt pride if I could ever admit to needing help. I feel so lonely, and I often imagine disappearing or going somewhere nice and passing away. When I was at a beach this summer, I wanted to get in the ocean and float away. Sorry for the length. I'm shaking typing this because I'm scared he'll find out. It feels better to admit this here than to anyone else. I don't know if I will return to this account. Story 11. My escapism fantasy. Ever since I started working in a cubicle 7 years ago, I've had daily daydreams of running away. My life feels boring. My family is nearly non-existent. Most of them have passed away. Holidays suck. Ever been to a Thanksgiving dinner for two? One day, I'm going to quit my job, hop in the car, and drive out west. I just don't know when that day will come. Just for those who are curious, money is not the issue. I have plenty thanks to generous parents and a lucrative career. Not enough to retire on quite yet. I'm only 28, but I hope to hang it up when I turn 40. I'm finishing up a master's degree that should open some doors career-wise. I'm hoping that will help. Otherwise, My life feels fairly stagnant. I moved back home to be with my mom after my father died almost 4 years ago, and I've yet to move out. I think our depression and grief feed off each other. It's not very healthy. But I like having someone to come home to after work, and she likes not having an empty house. So we tread on. I'm pretty convinced that my daydreaming and escapism thoughts are directly linked to my depression. I wonder how much of my anxiety, depression, and attitude would follow me no matter where I go. I'm seriously considering giving myself a trial run in 2 years when I turn 30. Give me 2 weeks, pack the car, and go for a while. I'd really like to see the Grand Canyon and Glacier National Park. I want to listen to jazz in Memphis, go to Coachella or some music festival, and eat a taco near the Mexican border. These are the thoughts that fill my head every day. Story 12. I talked my mom out of an attempt to off herself. I volunteer at a suicide prevention helpline. I often take calls from people on the brink of jumping or pulling the trigger. Everyone who calls us is anonymous on the caller ID. One late evening, I got a call transferred to me from a less experienced responder because the person on the phone was very non-responsive and apparently said they had a gun in their hands. When I picked up and asked for their name, I immediately recognized my mom's voice when she said it. Funnily enough, she mentioned that I sounded familiar like her son. I asked if that was a problem, and if so, I could transfer her to my colleague. She told me, "No, at least I feel like I sip confessing to someone I love." Then she went on about her failed adulthood. A husband she didn't love anymore. Sabzi by her now-deceased father, etc. It was tough just sitting there and receiving the burdens of a lifetime dumped onto you by your own mother. We talked for about 2 hours and she put away her gun. I heard it releasing the mag and hung up. I called my dad right after asking him where Mom was. She had apparently just walked in the door when I called. Knowing their house, she must been in the shed, Dad's man cave. I don't know if she knew it was me or not, but she hasn't mentioned anything, and I'm not going to. Story 13. My friend and I, both 14, went into the bar where his mom was getting drunk one afternoon. We stole her keys and then her Volkswagen. He let me drive, and I ended up driving through a barbed wire fence. No major damage, but the car got scratched to hell. He snuck her keys back into her purse and waited. The next day, she couldn't, for the life of her, remember what happened after she left the bar. Story 14. I accidentally stepped on the end of my sister's baby carrier that clicked into her car seat while she was in it. She got catapulted out. She was sleeping and kept sleeping after I picked her up, put her back in, and ran to my room. She apparently has no damage to this day. She excels in school and is an amazing football player and track athlete. She broke some records in javelin and shot put. But I'm not telling my mom what I did 14 years ago. Story 15. I own a computer. My family is strictly Christian and doesn't allow any electronics. They think it is the devil's way of getting to children. My friend and I left school and walked to the library to check out some prayer books, and I ran into my cousin. His mom, my aunt, separated from the church to live a different life, so I was forbidden to talk to them. I did anyway that day because I felt bad his family wouldn't talk to him. We got to talking, and he showed me his phone. I thought it was amazing. He showed me YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, and Reddit. He told me about his gaming computer, showed pictures, and some games with clips. I instantly fell in love. My cousin Tristan and I worked after school to help build me a little gaming laptop. I have owned it for a year now. I love it. I mostly play the Freak 2 on it and of course love Reddit. My parents would disown me if they knew, but I trust Reddit. Thank you for showing me there is more than prayer. Story 16. The only person who knows this is my husband. Last June, I was at a doctor's appointment with my 2-year-old, and he doesn't like to wait at all. We were at the lab waiting for me to have blood drawn, and I was pregnant. He was throwing a fit, and I was trying to stop him. I slapped his hands and told him to be quiet. I went into the lab, but they held me back. When I tried to leave, they took me to another room. They told me someone had said I was abusing my son and that I was being detained. I had to wait many hours until they could get a hold of my husband. Then I was taken in a police car to their station where I was questioned. I was given basically a ticket, almost like a summons. Child Protective Services came to my house, checked on my son, and found nothing. I had to get a lawyer and go to court. They dismissed the charges without even reading them out in court. I had the best lawyer. He even gave us back half our money because he said he didn't really do anything. I have all the paperwork, but don't have the heart to read it. My husband read some, and if I had done what they claimed, my son would have had marks all over him. He didn't have any, and no one actually took any pictures. They even tried to say there was a recording, but that was a lie. I'm just hoping this never comes up in a background check since it was dismissed. Story 17. Not technically from my whole family, but from my mom. Big secret. I set straight. Backstory. My little sister came out to my parents about 8 years ago. My dad reacted the way he reacts to all news, with an okay, good to know. My mother, however, didn't take it as well. She's not homophobic, but has tunnel vision when it comes to her kids and what our lives are supposed to be. She blamed it on hormones, curiosity, it being a phase, just about anything to believe my sister would one day wake up and realize she wasn't gay. My dad and I did our best to talk her through it and work towards acceptance. Spoiler, she's still in denial. But the one thing that threw all of us was when my mom said to all of us at different times, "But Seg 863, you were always the more masculine child." What? Yeah, I was a tomboy, but it irritated me that apparently she felt like if this was going to happen, the wrong daughter would come out of the closet. My sister and I laughed over this and eventually let it go until we realized my mom would ask me leading questions like, "Do you have a boyfriend? Are you dating? Are you interested in anyone?" Now, the answer to all of those questions at one point or another has been yes, but I've found that keeping my mother on an info diet about my personal life is just easier than dealing with her probing questions. It then occurred to me and my sister that my mother wasn't just asking because she was nosy, but because she wasn't sure I was straight. Her fear was that not one, but both of her daughters were gay. After all, I was the more masculine child. So for the past 8 years, neither my sister nor I has confirmed to my mother that I am indeed a straight woman who has been attracted to, dated, and smushed men. And it drives her nuts not knowing. Story 18. That I've been dumped by my fiancé and I'm supposed to be getting married in December. Edit. Thank you all for your kind words and advice. For those clarifying the difference between fiancé and fiancé, I'm a girl. This wasn't rushed. We'd been together for 7 years. We had even planned kids, pets, houses, everything. He broke up with me after saying he wished he had experienced more, since I was his first and only girlfriend. There were a lot of little things like that too. I will of course tell my family, I just haven't gotten to it yet. Your replies make this a little more bearable. Thank you, everyone. Story 19. I dated a girl and found out she was legitimately a psychopath, confirmed by a psychologist. She messed me up pretty badly and left me feeling unalive for several months. I was close to offing myself, but then I decided there were things I wanted to do before I died. One of those things was to buy a sailboat and go on a long sailing trip. So I decided I would do that first, and if I still wanted to off myself afterward, I could. I bought the boat in another state and sailed it several hundred miles back to my home. And now, I don't want to off myself anymore. Story 20. A year ago, we got a new massive wooden dining table that cost around 3,000 euros. On the very first day, I knocked over a glass of wine. The plan was always to have a protective blanket on the table, but this was before we had it. In a panic, I cleaned the spill with a cotton cloth. Turns out, there was some sand or grit on the cloth, which left nasty scratches on the table. I immediately covered it up with a blanket so no one saw the damage. A few days later, I ordered a rubber cover to put under the tablecloth. I told my parents this would protect the table if anyone knocked over a glass of wine again. They never noticed, since the rubber cover stays under the tablecloth and is never removed. Story 21. My mother-in-law is leaving my wife nearly $1 million in gold and silver, and we have a safe with half of the valuables in it. Not that my family, brothers, mother, father, etc., are thieves or anything, but I just don't want them suddenly hanging around more and acting differently. We grew up very poor, and they might not know how to handle that kind of money. I don't want my wife resenting them, thinking they're only after the inheritance. She likes them fine now, and I don't see any reason to change that. Story 22. How much I actually hate them for how terribly they treated my mom and me while she was dying from cancer. I was the one who took care of her while they berated me and were rude as hell to my mom when she made my nephew and me executors of her will instead of them. They slandered me endlessly and yelled at my mom for allowing me to make decisions for her, even though I had power of attorney. It was so bad that she had me help her make a video telling them to stop being a-holes to her and me, and she had me post it on Facebook. They did absolutely nothing to help her while she was dying. It was just me, my nephew barely, and my mom's best friend who took care of her. They put Mom through so much more than what she was already going through. I don't know if I will ever be able to face them without wanting to throat punch them. Story 23. I grew up thinking I was part of the X-Men and would train in the backyard in the swimming pool. One day, my dad thought I was drowning because I held my breath underwater for so long. He jumped in to save me. I was in 7th grade. I never told him that holding my breath was part of my mutant training. And I never told anyone I thought I was part of the X-Men because I didn't want the government to get involved. Story 24. Pretty much, I wouldn't be bothered one bit if I never had to see any of them again. I show up to family functions and act nice to people, but they're just completely horrible. I'm so glad I moved away and only have to see my mother a few times a year and my sisters even less. Story 25. After my mom and dad got divorced, I was 21 at the time. I had to use all of my life savings to pay for the house they were fighting over. My mom knows I was paying for it, but she doesn't know how much money I had to use, and we've never talked about it. I lost about $12,000. Also, I was depressed for about a year because my mom was depressed, and I wasn't in contact with my dad anymore. I am now. We're even closer, which is great. But at the time, with the money issues and almost losing my job, I had nobody to talk to. All my siblings were busy with their own families, and my friends were moving on to other things. Luckily, one person helped me through it all, someone I now consider almost like a lost brother. He was a stranger I met on an anime forum. He talked to me pretty much every day, and it wasn't just about nerdy stuff. We talked about everything happening in both our lives. Those conversations helped me through the tough times so much, and I don't know if he'll ever understand how much it meant to me. Since then, one of my biggest ideals in life has been communication. I now see every random internet user as a real person, not just a username. Love you, Reddit, and all the random strangers from the internet. Story 26. I have Pika. I'm hiding it from everyone. It's gotten so much worse, I don't know what to do. I will be standing around eating walls, and my family would wonder where all these holes were coming from. It's embarrassing as hell, but I needed to tell someone anonymously. Story 27. I was the only person with my father as he died. One of my sisters and I dropped our lives to take care of him in his twilight years. His last words were, "I'm dying. Please help me," repeated over and over. It shook me because my father was a strong man. No one in my family will know. The next day, my other siblings came and picked the house clean of anything of monetary or emotional value, while my caretaker sister and I sat in a numb state of shock. I hate all my other greedy, thoughtless siblings now, but fortunately, I'm an absolutely amazing liar. I pretend to love them for my mother's happiness. Story 28. Backstory. I'm an only child, and my parents have been separated for a long time. My dad was abusive to my mom, so there's no contact between them. Recently, I received a message from a girl who claims we may be half-sisters. She was born about 10 months after I was, in the same town. Her mom went to the same high school as my parents and graduated the same year. My parents had me very young, basically right out of high school, so that part seemed relevant. She was very nice and didn't seem crazy. We talked about a few other things that made it seem like it could be legit. We now live about an hour and a half apart in Florida, even though we were both born in Ohio. We're planning to meet soon and get a DNA test. I'm not too fazed by it. At first, I felt pretty crappy thinking about my dad cheating on my mom. If it's true, he cheated on her when I was about 1 month old, and that's a pretty shitty thing. But honestly, there are so many other worse things my mom went through because of him that this isn't world-shattering by any means. I'm not telling my dad because I don't think he'd really care or know what to do now since we're all adults. I'm 24. I also don't want this girl meeting my dad since he's definitely not what she's been hoping her father would be. And obviously, I'm not telling my mom because it would just reopen wounds and hurt her even more. To end on a good note, taking the DNA test will give this girl closure. She mentioned she has siblings, but they're much younger than her, so having a relative closer in age would be really nice. As long as she's cool, I have no problem with that. Story 29. I'm actually a certified public accountant. I failed the exam right out of college, but went back 10 years later, studied my buns off, and passed, even getting a perfect score on one section. For those 10 years, I was told they were so disappointed in me for wasting my college education, despite working good jobs in the industry the whole time. Somehow, the "I told you so" gloating felt worse than the low-level disappointment. So, I said rather just not tell them about passing. Story 30. I'm currently hiding from my grandparents that I will be taking my fiancé's last name when we get married. My mom suggested I wait until after the wedding to tell them. She said, "If you tell them now, your grandpa might get upset and not go and then regret missing it afterward." I was engaged once before and mentioned to them then that I wanted to change to the original spelling of our name. They didn't seem thrilled. Even after that relationship dissolved, it was brought up frequently. When my current fiancé and I got engaged, my grandparents joked, "Well, you've been penciled into the will, pending what your last name turns out to be." That really pissed me off because it felt like they were trying to buy me. I don't care about being in the will. I just want a good relationship with them. Getting an inheritance comes at too great a cost, their lives. I do hope they don't write me out, just because I don't want my last memory of them to be some message from beyond the grave telling me to screw myself. All will be well in the end. As long as I'm married to my beautiful fiancée, I will be happy. For those curious, I've hated my last name for as long as I can remember. I like the way my name sounds with hers, and she's always been fond of her name, so it works out great for us. Story 31. I told them I'm bi, but added quietly, mostly because it's none of their business. I usually keep it to myself outside of this account. I don't want any rumors, I said firmly. It's one thing to date a guy, and he knows you're bi. Guys tend to be more open about that, I explained. But trying to hit on a girl who knows you also like guys, that's not the best way to start a first date. She'll be imagining you with another guy. I shrugged. If I ever start a relationship, I will bring it up when I think she likes me enough to be open to it. Story 32. I have this strange hatred for my special area. I hate talking about it, looking at it, and often touching it. It makes me so uncomfortable. I identify as female, love many feminine things, and I really want to have children, but being a woman disgusts me. I don't even like my partner to see it. I cry when anyone gets near it or when it has to be looked at. Recently, I've been having problems with my periods, and the little touching I allow is painful, but I refuse to see a doctor. I don't want anyone to touch or look at it. My partner wants me to go, worried it could be something that might prevent me from having children if not checked, but I'm too afraid and disgusted to go. I feel like a freak, and I don't understand why I am like this. Story 33. That without a miracle, I might be homeless before summer is over. For the last few months, anxiety and depression have been beating me down. I'm trying to prevent all that, but my options are extremely limited. If my landlord decides not to work with me for the next month or so, or if some things don't pan out in the next few days, I will have no place to go, no money to sustain myself, and no way to get out of that situation. Story 34. There's an ounce of weed in the carcass of my PlayStation 2. My dad moved it to the attic last year, and I can't think of any reason to go up there that won't make him suspicious. He knows it's broken. Also, if he goes up there, he might see that I replaced one of his Krugerrands with a chocolate coin the last time I went up. Edit. Okay, I've had a lot of fun with this post, but the number of psychologically damaged freak wits misinterpreting it is getting tedious now. I don't live with my dad. I rent my own place and visit home a couple of times a year, during which we have a lot of fun playing pranks on each other. I'm not a drug addict who habitually steals from him. I'm a highly trained, well-funded scientist with no financial worries whatsoever, thankfully. I could totally claim back the weed if I was that bothered about it, but I'm 90% sure my dad wouldn't care. It seems like my habit from 7 years ago isn't really worth bringing up. The Krugerrand I took is literally about 9 feet from where it originally was. I took it because my family has played pranks on each other my whole life, and I know that when my dad sees the note I left him, he'll laugh. Goodness gracious, you overly dramatic bunch. Please try to stay calm, for freak's sake. Story 35. I have a ton of credit card debt. After I graduated from college, I got my first credit card while also paying bills for the first time in my life. One time, I got low on cash and made a couple of cash advances on my credit card. Nobody ever told me what an awful idea that was, and I'm still literally paying for that mistake. They have no idea, and whenever they ask how I'm doing financially, I always lie and say I'm fine. I have to bite my tongue sometimes to keep from telling them how much debt I have, but they have their own financial struggles, and I don't want them worrying about mine. Story 36. I'm very insecure about my future. My parents always told me how smart I was because my natural development as a child might have been above average, and I used that as a crutch to be lazy and make things as easy as possible. I barely graduated from high school, did almost no extracurriculars, and dropped out of community college. I wanted to apply myself but had no motivation because, according to them, I was already so smart. LPT. Don't tell your kids how smart they are without challenging them. Make them earn the compliment instead of just heaping on praise without results. Story 37. There were a lot. I remember being 5 years old, my first day of school, and realizing I could never tell my parents lots of things about my life. So, I didn't. I remember once in high school, my mom was driving and really made me angry. I told her all the bad things I thought I'd done. I smoked, I got drunk, etc. We stopped at a red light. She turned and looked at me and said, "No, you haven't. Don't be ridiculous." And that was all there was to that. They're both gone now. I don't think they needed to know a lot of things. I never told my mom that her home had been vandalized by partying teenagers who'd broken every window, set a campfire in the living room, tossed her and my dad's treasured things on the lawn, and scrawled their own names on the walls, for instance. But I most definitely wish they'd told me more of their secrets. I think I would be much wiser now if they had, but probably much sadder too. I miss them, and I feel like I barely knew them. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.